Guys, there are a lot of exotics that synergize with Arc. And right around the corner, we have Arc 3.0. Today, guys, we're gonna go over every piece of armor currently in Destiny 2 that synergize oh so well with the Maelstrom coming in Season 18. Because despite how potent Solar and Void 3.0 has been, I think Arc 3.0 is gonna be the best of them yet. Now, we're gonna be breaking things up into different categories today, including scaling super exotics, ad clearing exotics, tactical exotics, neutral game exotics, and of course, exotics that are actually broken or just flat out needs help. With that being said, let's get started. First on the list is none other than the Curious of the Falling Star. Our Yeet Titans know exactly what's up with this one, as this exotic greatly increases your Thunder Crash impact damage. You actually gain an overshield that lasts longer the further you travel before striking a target. It is essential for my Yeet Titans. And honestly, this was the exotic that put Coated the Missile up there in the meta inside of PvE, because previously, no one used it, like ever. I think it's still going to be very good next season, so definitely lock in your best stat roll of it. The other exotic that scales your super really well is Radiant Flux. Quick successive attacks with Arc Staff increases its damage output and duration. Pretty self-explanatory, but slapping him in the face over and over increases your damage. Part of me believes Bungie is going to do a switcheroo on us and make Arc Strider the highest damage super in the game. Similar to like Blade Barrage, right? Blade Barrage was a meme super inside of Destiny 2, and then all of a sudden it's the best damage dealer. And we did our damage test a while back, and we were blown away by what Blade Barrage was able to achieve. If Bungie actually buffs Arc Staff to that level of potency, Radiant Flux is going to be front and center. Our next other exotic is none other than Geomax Stabilizers. Damaging targets with Chaos Reach extends its duration. Chaos Reach has actually been a bit lackluster here lately due to the nerf that it received a while back, where it would no longer top off your super. And if y'all remember, Chaos Reach was not only killing everything inside of PvE, it was also quite busted inside of PvP. We still have footage of us literally killing people through walls. Now, will it be back to being top tier again with Arc 3.0? That really is up to Chaos Reach itself. The super, at one time, was the best in the game. If it reaches that level again, yes, Geomax is definitely going to be an exotic you want to have. Our next exotic, one of which I think many of you have forgotten about, Storm Dancer's Brace. Each target you defeat with Storm Trance increases the damage you deal with it and refunds super energy when Storm Trance ends. Essentially, the Ursa Furiosa for our dress wearers. And a lot of people look at Storm Dancer's Brace not really as a damage dealer, but more of an ad clearer. However, if Tickle Fingers gets an increase in damage, Storm Dancer's Brace is going to work wonderfully for my Warlocks. Now moving on to ad clearing exotics. First, we have ACD Feedback Fence. Melee hits build energy, and being struck by a melee attack reduces incoming damage and unleashes the energy in a devastating arc explosion. Now, melee combat has become one of the primary forms of ad clear with the previous 3.0 subclasses, so don't look at this and think, oh, cross, like we're gonna actually use our melees. Have you not seen the bonk build? And if that trend continues here, ACD Feedback, which pulses arc damage, is gonna synergize beautifully. Now, another exotic that also will dip into this, potentially, is Dune Marchers. Now, outside of PvP, this is the go-to exotic. It increases sprint speed, which is extremely beneficial, but sprinting builds up a static charge. And after you melee attack an enemy, that charge will chain damage to nearby enemies. Now, similar to ACD Feedback Fences, if the melee-focused combat trend continues into Arc 3.0, then Doom Marchers will make melee abilities like Ballistic Slam incredible. And it's already really good, but we're talking even more potency. And it's actually interesting because Doom Marchers actually got a fix, and I put that in quotes for a reason. Back in the day, it would actually double chain when it wasn't supposed to. I'm curious to see if that's actually going to be the case with either a fragment or an aspect. Time will tell. Our next exotic for ad clearing, as well as annoying the piss out of you, Shinobu's Vow. Now, I mentioned from Bungie, skip grenades were nerfed last season mid-Arc 3.0, and they're testing because they were so powerful they were breaking the game. Now, Shinobu's Vow, it buffs and gives you an extra skip grenade, which conjunction with things like well mods and what we suspect is coming in Arc 3.0 is going to be very disgusting. But even more so than that, imagine Arc Web with Shinobu's Vow. Hunters, you've got some nasty synergy coming. Next, we have Lucky Raspberry. Now, I know no one is ever like, yo, break out Arc Bow grenades and Lucky Raspberry, we about to go in. However, you may want to do that next season. Lucky Raspberry increases the chaining capabilities of Arc Bow grenades and has a chance to recharge it each time it deals damage. And a full chain always recharges. What does that mean? Potentially infinite chaining Arc grenades, especially with things like Arc Web. But even past that, if Arc 3.0 has fragments or aspects that increases damage based on the number of enemies chained, Lucky Raspberry is going to be extremely dominant for both PvE and for PvP. Next out on the list is Crown of Tempest. By the way, if you did not get the Crown of Tempest God roll a few weeks ago from Zera, I feel sorry for you. But essentially, Arc ability kills increase the recharge rate of your Arc abilities, and it extends the duration of Storm Trance. Subclass, making Tickle Fingers much better at ad clearing. And when you use these with Elemental Wells, this will regen your abilities even faster. Crown and Tempest, guys, is the go-to exotic for ad clear for my Storm Trance users. Moving on to tactical exotics. Starting with our most tactical exotic, Insurmountable Skull Fort. Something about meleeing things over and over again, and with every single kill, your arc melee will regenerate your health and instantly restore melee energy. Works beautifully on shoulder charge, but next season, who knows what chaining capabilities will be going off with every single melee. On top of that, if we have fragments or aspects that boost our melee damage, we might be able to actually start using Insurmountable Skull Fort with Ballistic Slam again. And I know you can still use it now in trash ads, but let's be real, Ballistic Slam is a piss poor melee inside of PvE, especially in in-game content. Our next tactical exotic is Getaway Artist. This exotic allows you to convert your arc grenade into a supercharged arc soul. Now the arc soul functions as an autonomous turret. Now our little arc buddies are decently potent right now, but if they're gonna be anything like our Child of the Old Gods after that 3.0 facelift, arc buddies are gonna be hella amped. No pun intended. Our next exotic, Vesper of Radius. No one has ever said, yo, break out Vesper, we're going in. However, now Vesper may actually be meta. Rifts release an arc shockwave when cast, and Rift energy recharges faster when you're surrounded by enemies. Now if we start getting chaining capabilities that synergize with that arc shockwave on cast, you might finally witness that arc nuke every time you drop a rift, which would be beautiful. Our next tactical exotic, Mask of Bacchus. Now this replaces your stasis subclass dodge ability with a longer range, faster moving shift that partially cloaks you during use. After shifting, your arc weapons deal increased damage to combatants for a short time, and you deal increased damage to all slow to frozen combatants. Now listen, I know this doesn't synergize with arc abilities as you're going to be on stasis. The main thing is the increase in damage for your arc weapons, and if you haven't tried it yet, Fourth Horseman, Mask of Bacchus, that's a hell of a combination. Our next tactical exotic, Liar's Handshake. Guys, at one time, Liar's Handshake was the best of the best. The melee damage that it granted hunters completely overtook Titans. It hurt my soul, but hunters with Liar's Handshake at one time had the highest melee damage ever. And there is so many ways to synergize Liar's Handshake that it's just gonna get easier with Arc 3.0. Between Elemental Wells and Charge with Light, Heavy-Handed, etc., Liar's Handshake may once again become the dominant melee-based exotic. Now, neutral game exotics. Ah yes, sometimes that's all you need. Starting with none other than Peregrine Greaves. Now obviously this benefits all shoulder charge abilities. Hammer Strike, Shield Bash, but also Seismic Strike. And you deal bonus damage when activated in the air. It also boosts airborne effectiveness for all weapons. Now don't get too crazy, it's a small stat bump, but Greaves has proven time and time again that it will put the hurt on some enemies. And that short burst of overwhelming damage should synergize with Arc very nicely. Our other exotic, MK44 Stanicides. Now no one's gonna get too crazy about this one. However, it does grant an overshield when you're sprinting at full health with Seismic Strike, Hammer Strike, or Shield Bash. Now hits with these abilities do recharge a portion of your melee energy. The main thing I'm excited about is what if we get Juggernaut back. And by the way, if you haven't seen our Arc 3.0 speculation video, we talk about Juggernaut. I know my Destiny 1 players know what it is, but essentially it was a shield that would literally be in front of your body, blocking everything, even the likes of a golden gun shot. MK44 Stanicides paired with something like this would absolutely break the game. Bungie would never, or would they? Our next exotic, Chromatic Fire. Precision final blows with your kinetic weapon create an explosion in the element of your subclass. Now, we just talked about the chaining lightning that Arc 3.0 is probably going to bring. And that's kind of like the verb that Arc is probably going to go for, just all about chaining damage. Now, this should synergize with Chromatic Fire. That element explosion, while rocking an Arc subclass, will allow the likes of things like Outbreak Perfected, Bad Juju, and other kinetic weapons to take advantage of that pop and sizzle. Now, finally, exotics that just need a lot of help, man. They should technically synergize with Arc 3.0, but to be quite honest with you, these exotics just need some love, preferably sooner rather than later. One of them is Eternal Warrior. Now, I know a lot of people get annoyed about Eternal Warrior inside of PvP. You essentially gain an overshield when activating Fist of Havoc. But considering overshield mechanics have already migrated to the Void subclass especially, Eternal Warrior just doesn't really do anything that special. On top of that, no one inside of PvE is like, yo, we need Eternal Warrior. Personally, the rework that I would want is give the Titan the ability to block some incoming damage, allowing us to put our arms up and actually block and just literally be a tank. I don't know, use your imagination. Our next exotic, Raju's Harness. Deactivate Whirlwind Guard early. Guarding does not consume extra super energy. Now, the main idea here is that you can deactivate Arc Staff at any time to preserve some portion of unspent super. And instantaneous deactivation refunds somewhere around like 63% of your super energy. And that's really its only main benefit. it, which is pretty decent inside of PvP, but again, no one's really jumping up to take advantage of this exotic, especially these days where you rarely get more than a single super per game. Needless to say, guys, Raju's Harness needs some love with Arc 3.0. And moving on to our final exotic, one of which no one really cares about, Blight Ranger, which is just outright broken. Attacks, you redirect with your Arc Staff, deal massively increased damage, and generate orbs of power for your allies. Now, Blight Ranger was previously disabled by Bungie due to the bug that would allow the player to retain the 5 or 6 time damage buff for everything, not just reflected damage. Now, Bungie later quietly re-enabled Blight Ranger with Season the Haunted. However, it's still incredibly bugged, with the damage buff only really working inside of PvP, and even then, being wildly inconsistent, and sometimes doing base damage, sometimes 6 times, and sometimes just straight up insta-killing the player shooting at you. And in PvE, the damage increase still appears to be disabled, while the orb generation part of the perk still remains active. Overall, and look, I'm not trying to like go out of my way to make life for hunters better, but this is a beautiful exotic. It needs some love. So guys, that is our exotic list for Arc 3.0. Again, let me know in the comments below if we missed anything. We try to hit everything that's synergized here. And by the way, if you haven't checked out our video on our Arc speculation, feel free to check that one out, guys. And again, with a lot of those speculation videos, it's a good possibility we won't get those crazy D1 abilities this season, or even the season that the new 3.0 of those subclasses drop on us. But we still have one more season before Linefall, and I think Bungie's really going to give us some of those abilities as a spicy aspect. Either way it goes, though, all these exotics on this list are going to be very potent next season. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.